Today's show is brought to you in partnership with Clearmotive Marketing. I co-founded this high-impact creative agency over 15 years ago. We deliver marketing that matters to our clients through our three-pillar approach. Number one, research that delivers actionable insights. Two, creative that attracts and engages new customers. And three, which is the backbone of our client success, the people, process, and technology that ensure efficient, consistent, high-quality results. We have great ideas and incredible creative, which is expected from a national agency. What makes us different is that we also simplify workflow, use technology to speed up projects, and recommend activities that achieve higher returns. There is a mountain of work that happens behind the scenes to produce what our clients take for granted, and that's exactly how we want it. Because great creative combined with well-organized operations is why we have such long-standing relationships. For example, Honda Canada has renewed their contract with us annually for the last 12 years. Our clients are market leaders, so they're incredibly competitive. Efficiency, performance, and consistent results are the only way to get to the top and to stay there. If you're not getting the consistent results you need, I can help. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or check out clearmotive.ca. Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning. I got two guests on the show this morning, Mr. Mackenzie McDougal and Tim Parrish. How you doing, gents?
Pretty good. Thanks for having us.
So good to have you guys on. This will be aired sometime in the future, but this is one of those lovely minus 30 days when winter actually did finally show up in Calgary after all that beautiful, is it ever going to come? Yes, it is. and it finally showed up. So we're both sitting all cozy. All three of us are sitting cozy and warm at our own desks, not out braving the weather at the moment. I met you guys. I don't even know how we met. That's the beauty of this podcast. I've done it for long enough now that it's 1 degree of separation, and you know that is kind of Calgary. So we won't even go down that road. But I was really curious about ARC surveys, which is where the two of you work, and some of the technology you've developed. And I'm always curious about sectors that have done things the way they've done them for a long time, and when innovation and new technology and digital disruption starts to come into play. So Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you. What is ARC surveys? What do you guys do? And then let's get into what we're chatting a little bit today, which is around some of the tech that you guys are evolving and using to change how you do work in your space.
Yeah, for sure. Well, ARC Survey started in 2012, and we're a land surveying company. So we're in the construction space, as you mentioned, and we're constantly looking for ways to improve our technology, do things better, more efficiently. But to sum up who we are is we think of ourselves kind of like Apple. You know what? They build computers, but they say, you know what, we're a tech company, right? Like that's kind of their thing, innovative. Like, how can we do this better? How can we take the last amazing product we created and totally destroy it and make a better one? For us, we say, you know what, yeah, we do land surveying, but we are a customer service company. It's all about the people out there, the client. And I know a lot of people will say that, but that's really what we've developed. And you can see throughout our brand how we treat our clients. And even the people who work here will testify like that the customers are number one. And so from our humble beginnings in 2012, we've had that attitude and has really skyrocketed us to really become a really dominant force in inner city Calgary, the municipal of Calgary, and the surrounding towns in that. We may complete land surveys, but we are customer service oriented. We tell lawyers, realtors, builders, you know what? Phone calls are free. Emails are free. We're not your lawyer, your accountant. Come sit down, have coffee with us, whatever it takes. Like, we want to be an educational company. And so that's really who we are at the core.
I'm curious. I want to back you up a little bit. Just Again, always looking in from the outside and always pleading ignorance as my first entry point into any conversation of like, I don't know. What you described, is that non-typical? When I look at other survey companies, obviously this is a discipline and a profession and a skill set that's been around for a long, long time. The way you described it, it's obviously what you're passionate about and what you believe in. And I'm assuming you believe that it is different, but the industry as a whole, if I was to look, cruise over at 30,000 feet and look down, would I see that level of innovation and change, or would I see a little bit of, well, this is the way we've always done it? Because it feels like it might be ripe for that. And that's my own kind of point of view.
Totally. I would say you're going to see both. You're going to see some companies that are, this is the way we've always done it. Land surveying is a very old profession, and we can get stuck in our ways and how we do things. And then you're going to see other companies who have seen that, with technology, the advent of technology, we can do things better for our client, our customer, and how we actually perform the land survey. So I wouldn't blanket everybody and say, oh.
No, I appreciate that.
There are definitely other companies out there who are innovative too, for sure.
We'll talk about the customer in a little bit, because sometimes you have to have permissibility. Like, what will the customer permit you to do? And, hey, this isn't the way we've always done it. So we'll get to that. But I also want to talk about, you just made the comment about using technology. Is this an instance? And I listened to a speaker recently. She said, hey, be careful when technology is just about efficiency. What about when technology can actually provide you with better insights and better thinking? And, there's sometimes an adage, well, geez, if I had more time and I could get away with those repetitive tasks, I'd have more time to think. But sometimes we also just fill up our day with more tasks. When you say the word technology, is it both? This is actually more efficient and manpower and our ability to kind of quote unquote get shit done? My words, not yours. Versus actually, this is giving us better information than we've ever had before. What's the balance look like?
Yeah, totally. Again, it's going to be both. So backstory here. So a lot of mid-sized, smaller server companies are still kind of using paper files, right? So a crew will come in or grab a set of files. That's how it was done for decades, right? They'll go out, they'll have their plans in there, and they'll go to the site, survey, all that kind of stuff. They'll be drawing with paper and pencil and that kind of stuff. Well, a lot of companies, including us, have transitioned into now everything is remote and digital. So, you're on the cloud, you're using iPads to draw everything, all your evidence is on that. It's submitted ASAP right to the office. A drafting team can pick it up right now. So when a client's like, hey, I know you said this was going to do on Friday, can I get it on Wednesday? We can rush a job through, get it done. The field crew's not driving, an hour back to an office, or if he's
just to bring you a tube full of paper. Yeah,
exactly. It's there. Are we getting better data? The second part of your question, absolutely. And Mac will talk about this a little bit later. The 3D scanning that we do is creating an incredible amount of data for our architectural clients, to the point where they've told us in meetings with them, like, we never want to go on site ever again and use our old ways of doing things.
That is the highest form of compliment. Those old ways, you've shown us a better way. Well, Mackenzie, let's kind of work you into the conversation here. You've been at the organization for 10 months, scanning technician and drafter. So just give the audience a little bit, kind of what's your world, and because it sounds like you're the guy who's got the hands on the tools, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. So I started just last April, and basically have been more or less learning kind of the trade and stuff, but I was really interested in starting to learn the laser scanning side of things, and I'd never done that. Like I'd always measured buildings, with a tape measure and or a laser tape measure, and coupled.
Which I love it. It's still a tape measure. It's just using better technology, but we're still using the same principle, which versus shifting how you do it completely, right?
Yeah, it's still a tape measure. It's just a very accurate tape measure. But yeah. So basically, when I started, actually, Tim showed me a lot of how like the scanner worked and like the process and whatnot. And we've probably done like 40 projects, maybe 50 projects so far, or just scanning wise. And they've ranged from, small little, like little mechanical rooms to like arenas and bigger. Right. And so
for you, from a career perspective, always thinking about, as organizations, we're trying to attract new team members. We're trying to do something that attracts the right people. So for you, thinking about all the jobs that are out there, of course, I'm creeping on your LinkedIn, as I always do. So you come from this industry, architectural technologist, drafting technician. How for you also was it also an opportunity, or like, it sounds like it was an exciting door to go, hey, I can take my career in a different direction while starting to, by working with a company who's willing and is putting the time, energy, and money behind developing this new way of doing it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like I saw the opportunity and thought like, wow, that's a really cool opportunity to learn something brand new that I hadn't really, like I had understood like survey drawings and survey plans and RPRs, and I understood those types of drawings, but when I read about the laser scanning aspect, it really interested me because it got the opportunity to use other softwares and do other things with that.
And from a career potential, it's like, wow, this has nothing but upside, or nothing but, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of ceilings. The more technology back to digital transformation, as it's hitting every industry. Then that technical role, sometimes you're the person who gets to fool around with the cool stuff.
Definitely.
just to be blunt.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because my role is like, it is very technical and hands-on, but it is still very drafting oriented. So like what I basically
still back to the core discipline.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm still using standard drafting procedures to make plans for architectural clients. But yeah, like going back to the career perspective, it was a nice like leap into a new unknown field that I wasn't really, I didn't really have any experience in, but
still founded in the journey that you've been on, which I appreciate.
Yeah. It was kind of like a mesh of like kind of two worlds.
Tim, pivoting back to you for a second, thinking about, industries, professional designated industries with lots of regulatory. This is how we do it. Was that a barrier at all for you guys as an organization going, okay, we need to bring a new technology to the table? Is it going to be taken seriously? Is it going to be seen as credible? Are there going to be clients that are like, well, wait a second, how do I trust this data? Because it wasn't a guy or a gal with a tape measure. Or was that not true? Was that not the case?
Yeah, great question. I would say there is a bit of a barrier to entry, and people are skeptical for sure because they're used to the old ways of doing things. I'll give you one example, an architect that I was speaking with about this technology, and we do work for him in our other services. And I said, this is something that we can bring to the table for you, and this is what it's going to do for you. He was very hesitant, and to this day, didn't want to go ahead with it. He trusted the old ways of doing things, right? And so yeah, to your point, there is almost like an invisible wall. Like, well, what is this? We're architects. Is it very accurate? I know. And that's usually what it comes down to is, can they trust the technology to deliver what they're used to? And any client who has taken us on says, okay, well, you know what, let me see what you've got. They've all come back. I mean, from small little mom and pop shops to large multi-province design companies, they've all come back and said, this is amazing. I've shared it with my entire team. So yes, there's an education process that we're noticing.
And I love what you said. Like, I don't care how complex or how simple it is. Trust is so much, whether it's good old Patrick Lencioni at the base of that pyramid. If you don't have trust, you can't build anything else on top of it, right? So from thinking about, even if I'm listening to this and I'm a tech startup in some other field and I'm having trouble with that trust factor, was that just like, try us? Like, how did you guys cross that barrier kind of in the early days of earning that hard to win and like priceless thing, which is trust?
Totally. Well, to build that trust and relationships, we basically said, look, we're going to do this for you at no cost, right? That's how much
you guys did a bit of the freemium model? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's how much we believe in it. That's how much we know this is going to work for you. And so whether we discounted heavily or with people we had really good relationships with, we said, look, we're going to come out, we're going to do this on site. If you hate it, don't ever use it again. If you love it, then we can talk going forward. And that was really our entrance into building that trust in a lot of those relationships, for sure.
And that comes back to, you've also got to have a leadership team or a board, or depending on the size of your organization, that allows that. You get too focused on, well, we didn't make $1 today, so we're not going to do it. How much was that a dialogue, or was that also just part of the culture of ARC, which you kind of talked about that early on? Because this feels like it fits right into the, well, how best are we serving our customers?
Yes, exactly. How best do we serve our customers? It's the culture of ARC. We will definitely go through that process of like, hey, you know what? This might not be making $1 for us today, but we can see the long-term plan, and we believe this is technology that's definitely going to take us somewhere. So we'll sow into today to reap a better harvest in the future.
I appreciate it, which is a cultural mindset, and not every organization looks at it that way. Everyone talks about innovation because it's fun to talk about. Doing it has a whole other set of parameters tied to it. So talk to me a little bit about the technology, Mackenzie, from your perspective. Like, it was new to you, but you guys didn't develop the technology, or did you? Or like, because I've done some work with some 3D scanning companies before, and it was more how they would help companies onboard it and use it. This was in kind of the parts and the additive manufacturing industry of how do they use it in like almost a warehouse or a shop setting. So I've had some exposure to it. They took this technology that they didn't create, but how the use case came alive and how they helped clients use it. What was the journey for you guys in terms of the technology versus adoption and the balance of those two things?
Yeah, well, I mean, like laser scanning has been around for quite some time now. Like it's not, and I'm sure Tim can talk about it too. Like it's nothing new that we've discovered. It's been around for quite some time. I think for us, it's a pretty new technology for maybe land surveying companies. Like it's not
the use case itself.
Yeah, the use case itself. It hasn't really been widely adopted in a lot of land surveying companies. A lot of realtors use kind of like very simple versions of these technologies for like little walkthroughs for their for properties. But they don't really have like scanning capabilities. They don't produce point clouds, and they don't produce any data really. It's just a 360.
Well, because the end case of what you do is construction and modification and renovation, and back to your point about trust, where if I'm getting a walkthrough from a realtor and it gives me the rough floor plan, that's all I expect it to be, is a rough floor plan. I don't expect to build to scale with the HVAC and have it not fit afterwards.
Yeah. But like,
so the end game is bigger.
Yeah, totally. And like the technology we use, like we can get those floor plans. We can get them, like whether I draw them or the website just produces them. So, yeah.
And so is this the kind of technology, just thinking about like digital twinning and some of those terms that are starting to float around a lot more prevalently? Is this kind of the similar technology that would be used in those areas?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what this is.
For you guys as an organization, Tim, when you were kind of spinning this up, because your role was to like bring this into the organization, how hard was it to find the right partner? Because sometimes that can be when you're not building the technology, but when you're relying on someone else's technology, that becomes, you don't want it to be the weak link in the chain, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, that's exactly it, right? And just to go back to what Mackenzie said, yeah, laser scanning has been around for a long time, and there's such a variety and a huge range of what it can do. And so because we were kind of niching down to, we want to create the digital twin 3D model for architectural services, we needed technology that could do that. And we weren't looking for the type of laser scanning that is to the incredible absolute millimeter at 200 feet away kind of the thing that's scanning a building, underground services, or anything like that. We're looking for something that has efficiency, that is extremely accurate, but also has speed. So yeah, we went through all of the name brand laser scanning companies out there. You said that people are creating this technology, right? Until we found one. Again, we're not afraid of like being innovative, and so I would randomly call up again, like LinkedIn stock, almost like companies that I thought were using some of these technologies that we might be looking at. Message them, like and some return your calls, some don't, right? To get onto emails, to get onto web chats, to do a call just to say, hey, are you using this? We're across the country. We're not a threat to you guys. How has it been in that? And I have to say, like,
oh, nice, yeah, okay. And was there a willingness for collaboration?
Absolutely, from some,
huge.
For sure.
Yeah, and always for some. Always a caveat.
Some,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Those who didn't have that scarcity mindset, and that helped us out a lot, right? Just being willing to say, hey, we're willing to contact a company in Ontario and say, would you get on a call with us? Have you used this technology? How is it working for you? Can you confirm, its results? And those
can you confirm or deny the results? Of this?
Yeah.
Curious around the concept of don't fall in love with the problem, fall in love with your customer's version of the problem. Mm-hmm. It sounds to me, and please push back, you were pretty clear on what problem there was to be solved with a customer. It sounded like the real lift, or certainly the work that ARC did, was, okay, what is actually going to allow us to do this? It was finding the right solution and the way to do it. It didn't sound like you had to do a whole bunch of exploratory work because you knew the sector, because you knew the clients, and you knew what work they were doing. Now, it felt like the we can make it better was clear. It was then the how we make it better was maybe the lifting. Am I breaking that down properly?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how that feels like an easier part of the journey. And I'm not trying to there's nothing, I'll be careful, I use the word easy very cautiously. Oh, it looks so easy the way you did it. You're like, oh, geez, you weren't there all the late nights. We're trying to figure out this was the wrong path. That was the right path. But having that deep customer expertise and understanding, and then going out on a quest to solve it, it just feels like a different way to kind of back into it than if you're like, oh, I've got this cool technology. Who can I help with it? That feels so much more hard to identify.
For sure. Oh yeah, definitely, right? Like you said, the customer base was there. We were looking at it, seeing a need that the customer had that we weren't solving, and they weren't doing a great job of it either, using their old ways. So we looked for ways that we could come to a great solution, and fortunately we found one.
And are you guys, like so many industries, man, if I had time, if I wasn't busy, the things I would research and the things I would figure out, is that a little bit of the symptom of, it's many industries, like, oh man, if I had more time, the things I would do. But the reality of you being able to, back to your customer service mandate of, we will make the time because we know you don't have it, and we'll come to you with a solution to what we've all know is just classic. Oh, that's the way it goes. Is it? Can we do better? To me, that sounds like so much of the formula.
Absolutely. That's just part of the culture here. How do we do better? How do we improve, right? And we give time and energy, talent, resources, financial resources to those things to say, what can we do better? If you're not growing, you're dying. So that's kind of our motto.
Standing still is a myth because the world's moving past you. From an organizational perspective, and just curious for anybody listening, especially if you're an existing organization, it's that, we want to do all these initiatives, but we're not giving people time to do it. Do you carve out, is that part of your mandate as an organization that go, okay, we're going to work on this and we've got 20 hours a week. I'm being very, very one-to-one on this, but from an organization or a leadership perspective, kind of your advice or your experience around, you've got to set time aside for these things or they won't happen.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, we're not perfect at it.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. We definitely don't put our heads down and just do things the way it is day in, day out, and then look up one day and say, oh, shoot, the world's passed us by. So we do have that mindset of every year, all right, what are we moving on that's new? How are we growing? Our whole organization, just to exemplify that, we have our own business coach, right? Who we help coach us in our organization, and that just because we believe in training and coaching so much. And so yeah, we definitely set aside as a leadership team a lot of time to discuss what's new, what's innovative, how can we grow, how can we do better? And then that will trickle down into the rest of the team for sure. And then as that trickles down, as to Matt can attest, it's okay, well, you know what, this isn't making us any money right now, but let's figure it out. Let's play with it. Can it? We had a lead maybe this week actually, and they were looking at getting some 3D scanning done for some mechanical parts, and these were unique. We'd never done them before. Mac and I. Okay, well, let's figure this out. How can we serve this client? So Mac just got the equipment out, and we just kind of went, we weren't making money here, right? We just said, hey, can we do this? Can we figure it out? And it turned out it wasn't something we were going to be able to deliver on for this client. So we researched another company who could do it and passed them on to that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Leaving the client with some type of, or the customer with a potential answer. When you get the benefit of being the trusted partner who gets that first call. I hate not sending them away with something, in the honesty of we're not the right fit, but here, let me refer you to somebody.
It's painful to say no, but.
Oh, I hate it. It's the worst. Yeah. Not us, but let me refer you to so-and-so. They're great. Yeah. Go and chat with them. If you look back, Tim and Mackenzie, both of you, but the early days of bringing this on board, lessons learned, things you would have done differently. It's a bit of a cliche question, but there's a lot of things I would maybe slightly do differently if I could go back. Any things around bringing this offering up to speed in your organization? Any things that you walked away with, Tim? And then Mackenzie will get into it even from the technology and onboarding someone new.
Yeah, we take a lot of risks, I would say, right? And so we say yes to things sometimes that we're we're unsure we can do this. And sometimes that can be quite stressful and lots of late nights and lots of people involved in that kind of stuff. I think that's the normal to a startup or division startup. And so my takeaway would be I would probably look at being maybe less aggressive on some of these kind of moments where I was we can do it, no problem, we'll get it done.
Can I quote you on this, Tim, later on when Mackenzie calls me and says, well, Tim he didn't seem to follow his fight. No, I'm just joking. Because that's hard. When it's in your DNA to say yes, those are tough ones. Maybe I'm empathizing with you too much.
Yeah. 100%. I'm in business development, sales, marketing, and those personalities, and if you ever worked with one, and we say yes before we know we can do it a lot.
Yes, versus even yes and. Just yes. Yeah. Hell yes. Hell yeah. Mackenzie, for yourself, coming on board to an organization that's, a divisional startup, like the internal startup, which is a whole other discipline in itself. How was that experience, or maybe advice or thoughts that you can give? This is a delicate question, I recognize. Mm-hmm. In terms of, as you grow this team, how do you think about how you might onboard people in the future, and just how companies can set new people up for success when they're walking into a new environment that maybe doesn't have a playbook yet?
Right. I think just setting really clear goals and expectations, and just really defining what those deliverables are going to be. Early on, if somebody doesn't, for me, as an example, I didn't have I didn't know how to use the scanner at all. I didn't know.
So that goal number one.
Like I didn't know any of the like common practice or anything. Like I understood what it did, but I didn't know, oh, you need to place them, 10 feet apart or like 15 feet apart and set up targets and, do all this setting up work. So like if, to answer your question, like if we were ever to add somebody onto this, I think it would be just a nice, like, there should just be like a nice onboarding program where we just, give them the training and the skills that they need to succeed. Because once you understand this technology, it does become pretty easy to do it. I shouldn't say easy, but it's,
a lot of things are easy once you know how they work, right?
Yeah.
to use the word easy a little bit loosely.
Like I can't really say easy because like we recently just we scanned like a gigantic office building and it was 50,000 square feet per floor and it flooded us. So
easy is not the word you'd use to describe it.
But like, I mean, I was there, Tim was there, and we were both doing stuff in the building, like scanning, measuring, and it took us couple weeks.
And how do you bring all that together into kind of a top-down view of the whole thing, right? Versus a bunch of fragmented pieces.
Yeah. So like in that situation, it would have been nice to maybe have another scanner and another person doing like another floor at a different time. Yeah. But that might be a lesson learned kind of thing if we ever do get something in our
as it grows.
Yeah.
Mackenzie, from your thoughts, and this is I'm getting into the psychology of hiring and recruiting, and this is so much the world we live in. It's hard to hire someone with the skills to do something that's new that we haven't done before. So what kind of characteristics do we actually start to look for? Like I love your honesty. Like I came in, I didn't even know how to use it, but clearly you had a level of resourcefulness. You had a figure it out factor that was very, very high, which those things can be very hard to hire for. So if you think about if Mackenzie, you were in the hiring role now, I'm putting you in a weird position. Tim's like, where's this going, Tyler? What is he doing with this one? And you need to hire your number two. What are some of the actual attributes, like from a personality perspective, saying that they don't have the technical skill, but they've got all these other things that I know is going to set them up for success? What would you look for?
Yeah. I would probably see an individual that was pretty conscientious. They had a love for technology. Probably somebody that like, isn't afraid to like kind of go a little bit further than just the standard. They want to like perform really well. And I know that's almost impossible to know, meeting in person for the first time, but I would see, all those other key buzzwords like hardworking and honest and
totally. I guess what I'm getting at is, it was so many often, and I've got young niece and nephew, and like they don't have the skills, but they have the aptitudes and they have the energy. And I think for so many of us, no matter where we are in our career, we're heading somewhere that we don't have the skills to do the thing. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was just touching on it, playing around with it a little bit. Totally. Like, how do you hire for attributes? How do you hire for those core competencies that probably aren't the tech, because the tech might be new. And the way, Tim, you and the organization decide to use them might also be new. So just playing around with a little bit of that, because I think we can all take a page from that, whether it's personally or I'm going to hire someone on the team and then we write these unicorn job descriptions of all the things they know how to do that just don't exist in the real world.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So Tim, what's your point of view when you look at even hiring and recruiting? Is this an industry where there's a lot of people that are like, hey, yeah, I've been in it for a while? Or is it like, what's the talent pool look like as you guys grow?
Yeah, for sure. To build on what Max said in your question there, we hire for character, drive, ambition, an ability to, I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to figure it out. We hire for that first. Skills can be taught. Right.
Yes.
And so to your point, education is extremely important and it's great to get skills, but sometimes we rely on that and say, okay, well, I've got the skills, I'm now qualified, right? But when you're in a growth company where it's like, well, we don't know how to do this, but we are, entrepreneurial, we're going to figure this out. What we really have to fall back on is this drive, this passion to figure this out, to basically say, yeah, I'm going to, get it online. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to call up companies and figure out how this works, and we're going to make it happen. Versus somebody saying, "I've got skills. Can you tell me what to do?" Right? It's like that. Neither are wrong. They're all great people. But when we're talking about like trying to create a culture or a team in an organization that is moving in a certain direction, we really do hire for people who have that, can do. I'm going to figure it out. Attitude and or have a solid character, very honest, truthful person.
And what's your
skills.
now I'm getting into the secret sauce, because now it's when everyone's leaning it. And how do you, like, what's your formula? What's your approach for doing that? Because that is a tricky thing.
It is a tricky thing.
Like, it's hard to see the invisible sometimes, but once you start working with someone, that stuff shows up almost like week one.
Yes.
But in the interview, oh man, it's tricky. I've yet to become a mind reader. I'm working on it.
Totally. I think that people hire too fast. And so I would say that our secret sauce is a lot of questions, a lot of interviews.
A lot of hanging out, a lot of dates, a lot of first, second dates.
You hang out with somebody long enough, they're going to say something, you're going to notice something, right? And that's not to say we don't give people a chance. We totally do, right?
Of course.
Absolutely. And that we haven't, it's not that people are bad persons. Maybe there's not a good fit for the direction the company is going.
Yeah, it's not good or bad. I completely agree with you.
Exactly.
It's like, we have a certain way of doing things, and another company has a different way of doing things.
That's
you could excel over there and not excel here. Good or bad has to go away. Like, it's not good or bad. It's right fit or not right fit.
Yeah.
Well, if I could just touch on just my personal experience, like, I wasn't hired technically right on to the company. Like, I was actually given a bunch of projects to kind of do on my own time.
Oh, nice. You had a little bit of an audition. I like that.
Yeah, a bit of an audition. Exactly. And I loved that, because I got to dive right in, and I absolutely loved it. And, a couple projects down the road, it was like, okay, well, here we go.
Well, then it becomes almost a no-brainer. You're like, well, we're already kind of working together, because we are, right?
Exactly.
I'm a huge fan of that versus the, like, pass or fail, right or wrong, because none of us are mind readers, and humans are messy and complex all at the same time.
Exactly.
But being able to do a few projects, and I love, like, what you do, I work in marketing. You can do work together. Like, it's not that hard to go, let's just do let's do a test project. Let's do a prototype, something that might just be even internal. And all of a sudden you go, oh, I know how, that this is great. I love working with this person, or you don't, or you identify the pluses and minuses. I appreciate it, because it is, hiring is a crapshoot at the best of times. Let's be honest, shall we?
Yeah.
But if you're the more clear, and I love, Tim, you kind of, you took the mantle there, like, the more clear on who you are and what matters to you, the easier that gets. Just like Mackenzie said, when people get hired, what's success look like? What are we actually trying to do? Even if we're not sure what it'll look like, we know where we're headed.
That's right.
So many times people get hired and they're like, okay, cool, you're here. Go fill out some paperwork and sit in the corner. We'll talk to you later. That doesn't set anybody up for success. It's kind of lazy. It's lazy, actually. It's super lazy.
That's right.
Talk to me a little bit about the financial side. Like, obviously you're a startup, you got to go out and you got to find funding, and you got to get mom and dad and the uncles, and you seed round, and then angels. When you're internal, was this a formalized or a structured approach at ARC where you said, okay, we're going to set a budget, we're going to set goals, this is where we need to hit, this is what we're willing to invest? How disciplined was it? And again, you can be, please transparent or whatever you feel comfortable with. Just really trying to give the listener who's like, I want to do this in my organization, but I'm like, we have a way of doing things that probably doesn't work so well for startup style divisions. For sure.
Well, I guess just to kind of answer that in a few different ways is, again, it comes back to the culture of the company. We're growth oriented. So the leadership team is very much on board with, hey, this is new technology. So you'd have to probably have that first from a top down perspective, like, hey, we're interested in new things in your organization. Two, we're very fiscally savvy. And so we make sure that we don't carry any debt at all in our company. And we have a surplus of cash flow to invest in new projects and technologies in that. So then
they used to call it a war chest. I don't think we can call it that anymore. That sounds very politically incorrect to call it that for some reason.
Yeah. Well,
park that term, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Exactly. Right. And so there's the financial resources available to do that. And I wouldn't say that we said, hey, this is what we're willing to spend and invest in this. What we usually try and do, and the same way we kind of gave Mac a few projects to start before we hired him in, is because it's a lot of small testing, right? It's like, let's spend a little bit of money on here, and here, and then which one is going to grow, right? Whichever one grows, we're going to start putting more money into that and just disregard the rest for now. And so that's really how we do it. Whether that be opening another location or division and that kind of stuff, we start small, put a bit of money into that, and as we see small wins, we start to funnel more resources there. Truly a crawl, walk, run. Again, got to throw a few buzzwords in there. Crawl, walk, run approach. Fail fast, pivot, all the words. Just curious around the testing. A lot of people throw that around. How, again, this is how disciplined or how critical is it, and how disciplined have you been in your approach of what are we actually testing? Like, what question are we actually trying to find out? Because the fail is only a fail if you didn't learn from it, but you have to know what you were trying to learn. And sometimes there's things that show up. I get it. You're like, oh shit, I didn't even know that I was going to learn that. But is that a discipline that you see as important? Is it something you engage in your organization of, like, when we are testing something, we've got pretty clear parameters of what we're hoping to learn, and then there's obviously the unknowns that show up? Sometimes we know the question.
No, it's more of a now we're speaking conceptually.
Totally. I mean, just to be completely open. I don't think we do that perfectly. Sometimes we know what we're looking for. Other times we're just like, oh, this did not work. That was a big fail.
Let's go for a walk and see what we see around the corner. Sometimes I don't know what's around the corner, but I'm going to walk there anyways. I appreciate that. And you're right. It's hard to. You can't predict what you've never seen before. Like, it can be very challenging to go, I want to learn this. And you're like, then it sometimes actually limits you of what you get blinders on, you don't see.
For sure. And I mean, for this laser scanning technology that we use for architects, I mean, we did know a key question for them was, is it accurate? We knew that. And you get that from interviewing your customer and saying, like, what matters to you? What do you need? And that's what constantly came up. And so we could run with that as we looked at technologies, as we looked at people and their skills. We could use that as the baseline for sure.
Because, like your point, accuracy for what intent? Ultimately, from a sales process, accuracy for trust.
That's right.
And because if I can't trust it, then I can't be accurate, and then I'm going to fail down the road with my drawings or my build out or whatever the case may be. And the cascading impact of that measure being wrong right off the bat is catastrophic.
Yeah, that's right.
That's also appreciate.
I think if I could just also touch on something. People are always going to need some sort of documentation done for their spaces, for their properties, for whatever. And there's always going to be some sort of demand, I think, like from just from what I've seen
from just the business case itself.
Yeah, from the business side, from the architectural side, there's going to be spaces that are just going to be not impossible to measure, but very, very taxing on a lot of resources, right? And so like with what we do, like we can just cut that into a fraction, right? And we just deliver like high output stuff. Whereas like if you're just out there with a tape measure and a laser, it's like there's so many. Anyway, I don't know if I kind of derailed that, but
no. What I'm hearing you say also is like, let's just as the reality of like accessibility. Like we can do better data easier, which then we all know there's workforce challenges. We all know it's hard to get good people. Like those are realities that are facing every industry.
Yeah.
If I'm in a business or on the client side or the provider or the vendor side, and I go, wow, I could actually provide a better outcome to my client. Where maybe they would have cut the corner, like, it's such a hassle to get this specific building or this room or this weird abstract thing that's in, the three-dimensional world can be very, and there's pipes and there's all kinds of stuff. And you come at me with a technology solution that makes it easier, man, I'm probably going to jump at that also quicker, right? Because you're removing those barriers.
Yeah.
And from a vendor perspective, you're not like, oh shit, we've got all this work, but we don't have any people, which that's a common theme. You don't have to go far to hear that storyline around like, oh, if I just could get more people, I don't care if that's my buddy who runs the big landscape company to energy, like whatever it is, qualified people. So hearing technology balance that out, I think it's only a smart way to build your business. Curious a little bit, you talked about, has this opened up new customers for you? Like thinking about who's the ideal customer, you talked about the architect. I'm assuming that list starts to build over time as you evolve this out.
I would think it would. I haven't seen any, it's brought on new customers that weren't using our services before, for sure.
Okay.
But I haven't seen.
But in that same kind of
exactly.
ICP kind of range. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Outside of that, no, we haven't seen any kind of customers that are coming from a different field of service or outside our industry saying, hey,
okay,
let's.
But there's probably somebody servicing them in a very unique way to their industry as well. Has this been a disruptor in terms of your ability to gain new clients from, like, I'm assuming in your industry like ours, that the clients you want to get have probably worked with someone else, a competitor. Has this helped you from a pure competitive standpoint?
Absolutely, for sure, nice. Definitely. And then it's marketing. It's getting the message out there. It's building that trust factor, and going from there, right? So.
Well, if I could just jump in, it's funny because Tim and I have had this conversation a ton of times where it's like we want to get that message out, but we also don't want to like say too much. We don't want to like be like, yeah,
it's a tricky balance.
We're using exactly this scanner and we're doing this and we're providing it to we kind of want to be like a little bit secretive, but also a little bit transparent. I don't know, kind of toe the line between those two. Things, because then we're there's a possibility that every architecture company just buys this scanner and just does And
the argument will be probably, if it's the right way to do it, they eventually will.
Yeah.
But back to your innovative, always doing better, always pushing, you'll still be at the bleeding edge of something that the other person who's a little bit slow to adapt, and they're waiting for everyone in the industry to make it safe before they get in. So the argument is like, there was a time when somebody had a computer in their office and somebody didn't. And then eventually they went, oh man, this is not, we need to go down this road. And now it becomes ubiquitous. I think the mindset and the culture that Tim shared earlier about always being at the edge of like what's new and what's going to be better for our customers, hopefully like that's the formula that keeps you ahead. It's not waiting till the technology is safe and everybody jumps on. Because technically, if it's a good way of doing it, they should. Or what the hell are they doing? That's another question.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Maybe going out of business. That's maybe what they're doing. Slowly, and all of a sudden. For you guys, last question, because I'm a marketer, so I can't help it. What have been some of the ways you probably have an existing customer base, but outside of that, when it looks to like new leads, what are some of the tactics that you've used that you found successful? Like I was on your website, you guys go all in on your content creation, which hats off. That's no easy task to put out videos and blogs and content. What's really worked well for you? What's shined through, Tim, in terms of like that is well worth the cost of entry?
Sure. I'll tell you right now. We give before we try and take from somebody.
Give, get. Good old Gary Vee.
So there's a lot of ways that somebody can do that through their business, whether that's sending gift cards in the mail, whether that's just showing up with something of value from your company and saying, hey, this is free, whether that is bringing them coffee. I don't know what it is, but we really believe in that method. It's not, that doesn't mean you're going to get them right away. There's time involved and they're busy people and that kind of stuff. But throughout the years, I have never seen such, or I should say more feedback from people who say, I don't even know you. Like, I can't believe that you just gave this to me. Thanks for caring. I may not need your services now, but man, you're top of mind, right? And so often in marketing or sales, it's always like, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? But we're the opposite. It's like, hey, we're going to give first. And if we're a good fit, then you'll remember us.
I love what you said. It's not about what can I do for you now? How do I stay top of mind?
Yeah.
Because if what's some of the statistics that only 5% in a B2B environment, I think only 5% of your addressable market is actually in the market to buy your services at that time.
Yes.
But that other 95% is still making notes of who you are or that you hope they are. So that day that they're like, I'm frustrated, and they go to their computer, they're like, oh, Arc, I know that. Yes, I'm going to call those guys today. And that's so much what it is. And we forget that in marketing. We do this, put in a quarter, get a gumball out. It's just not how it works.
No.
It's not how it works. No. If I spend $1, what exactly will I get in the first 4 weeks? I'm like, the start of something awesome, but that's probably about it.
Right.
But anyways, preaching to the choir. What's the best way for someone to two fronts? Like, I think we kind of covered two angles. If someone wants to is in this field and really says, wow, I like what you guys are talking about, just go to your website, check it out. Are you guys hiring or recruiting at this time? Maybe I'll ask that, just kind of blatant question.
Yeah, we definitely are hiring through the land
Always looking for
side.
good people.
Always looking for good people.
Looking for good people.
100%. That's definitely an always. If somebody wants to get in touch with us, of course, visit our website, arcsurveys.ca. You can find us there. You'll see our faces and our names all over the place there. Give us a call through the numbers that's on our website. Send us an email. It comes back to what we said in the beginning. Like we pick up the phone for anybody, right? Phone calls and emails are free. So definitely, we're happy to sit down, have a coffee, right, and just start building relationships. You never know where those lead.
I completely agree. Last question, and I'm assuming you're open to it because you've already been very clear. If somebody's listening that they're in a completely unrelated field, but they're trying to get this skunk works or they're trying to get a new division up and running, I feel like you'd be a wealth of advice in that department as well.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. No, not a problem. Like it comes back to, again, like that client who needed something done. We couldn't do it. We figured out how another company could do it for him and then gave that to him. And so, if somebody's thinking like, what, I've got these ideas, I'm in a company, how do I start this up? Like 100%, like get in contact with us, through your podcast, through our website, whatever it is, right?
We'll throw it all out there.
For sure.
But check out,
you
guys have a great website. You have a ton of content on there. Again, kudos to you guys for putting in the time and energy to do that. And thanks for coming on today and just being candid. And conversation went in a few different directions, but my goal is always give somebody, one, a little bit of curiosity and understanding about a field that they maybe don't know about, and two, they get to know who you guys are and whether it's relevant or not, you're a company in the city who's doing something innovative, and those are the stories I like to tell. So thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both.